celebrities love to do a cameo. And so it's no wonder they've been trying to get their foot in the video game door pretty much ever since it became obvious that they were a big deal. Whether it's lending a voice to a character who only appears in certain circumstances, or starring in one of many ill-fated FMV titles, they've been popping up for years, delighting and sometimes confusing fans with their presence. Sometimes these stars and famous figures get more than just a quick appearance though, and instead have games based around themselves and their likenesses, lives, personas, or IPs, and we've picked a few of these to examine today. Often, but not always, these games rely entirely on the star power of the celebrity in question to help boost sales and represent a strange and experimental time in the star's career, as they try their hand at something new that only occasionally succeeds. Get your autograph books ready as we take a star-studded tour through video game history and rub shoulders with some of the most recognisable people ever. I'm the world-famous Ashton from Triple Jump, and here are 10 video games starring actual people. Number 10. Shaq Fu. We all knew this one was going to be here, so let's go ahead and get out of the way early, shall we? The iconic basketball player Shaquille O'Neal, known most commonly as Shaq, is considered to be one of the greatest players of the sport of all time, earning an impressive number of accolades and credits over the course of his professional career. He showed up in numerous films and was featured on many NBA game covers over the 90s. But his first proper foray into the weird world of celebrity tie-in titles was the infamous fighting game Shaq Fu. As he wanders the streets of Tokyo, Shaq happens to stumble upon a kung fu dojo and, upon entering, is compelled by the master Liotsu to jump into an alternate dimension and save a small boy named Nezu from the mummy Setra. Despite the scathing reviews and absolute mocking the internet has given it over the years, the game somehow managed a sequel called Shaq Fu: A Legendary Born in 2018, which was received just as positively, in that review scores have to be positive numbers. It even got DLC featuring Barack Obama, because that's clearly the logical next step. Slam dunk, more like damn junk, got 'em. Number 9. Journey. It's not just film and sports stars that are likely to get into the world of video games. Sometimes even bands will join the fun as well. Most of the time, unsurprisingly, they get involved with the rhythm action genre, but occasionally they'll branch out to other frontiers. Journey, no, not that one, is one such experiment that featured the band of the same name, who were experiencing the peak of their popularity in the early 80s, a fame that naturally led them to the world of gaming with their own arcade cabinet. This 1983 title follows the members of the band as they roam through space searching for their instruments, which have, of course, been stolen by some of their numerous crazed alien fans and scattered around different planets. Each of these function as their own level, with a series of minigames that see the player guiding one of the real-faced sprites through obstacles or across platforms in order to nab their respective bit of kit, then shoot their way back to the ship. In 2007, Game Informer put this arcade oddity on their list of the top 10 worst licensed game ideas ever, proving that this particular journey was most definitely all about the destination, because then you could finally stop playing it. Number 8. Celebrity Sport Showdown. There are plenty of games that focus on just one personage, but instead they sometimes opt not to stick to a single celebrity, preferring to showcase a whole roster's worth to really get the most out of their efforts, or perhaps appeal to as many fans as possible. One such title is Celebrity Sports Showdown, a 2008 sports game collection for the Wii, which features the names and extremely vague likenesses of such high-profile hotshots as Fergie, Mia Hamm, Keith Urban, and Sugar Ray Leonard. The minigame compilation, much like most other Wii sporting titles at the time, is similar to Wii Sports, but without all of the excitement and charm, with even the graphics themselves not being much to write home about. It did feature a quite impressive array of sports, allowing players to test their hand at volleyball, canoeing, dodgeball, curling, climbing, and more. Each of these featured the predictable motion controls, which were not especially responsive, and could be played with up to 3 friends, if you could convince them to bother with it. There were surely some people who absolutely could not wait to vault hurdles while playing Nelly Furtado, but in general, it was best to run away from this title as quickly as possible. Number 7. Amadeus Revenge. While it's most popular to base games off of famous folk who are still alive, or who are at least semi-relevant, developers will occasionally look to the past to draw inspiration. The Assassin's Creed games are perhaps the most famous example of this, but it's been happening for much longer than that's been around, and one early title to feature an historical figure is Amadeus Revenge. Released in 1988 for the Commodore 64, this strangely themed shooter stars classical composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who is trying to complete the famous Piano Concerto No. 25 by wandering around a world made of sheet music and pipe organs. This is made more complicated, however, by the various obstacles that'll get in his way. And as he progresses, Amadeus, as the game chooses to call him, has to shoot both rival musicians and conflicting musical notes sent from somewhere off-screen by competitor composers, which repeat their dissonant tones until they're taken care of and the piece can be finished, which is accomplished by reaching the top of the score. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I knew writing music was difficult, but Deadly Quarter Notes set the bar even higher. Little sheet music humour for you there. Number 6. Napoleon. We're staying firmly planted in the realm of history for now, as we move across Europe and take a leap from musical composition to military strategy. Released only in Japan and France, the 2001 GBA title Napoleon follows Napoleon, Bonaparte, not Dynamite, in the latter half of the 18th century, as he leads a revolutionary army into battle. Here is where the historical accuracy goes out the window though, as the military commander gets into his fair share of tussles with ogres and abominable snowmen over the course of the game. The gameplay is quite similar to that of Fire Emblem, so players have the ability to control and command other units in the heat of battle, as well as have long dialogues with fellow military advisors. While the main objectives of missions can vary, most revolve around attempting to defeat the enemy and take over any of their abandoned strongholds. Players can have up to 6 commanders with them in battle, all of whom will have their own special strengths and weaknesses, and who can control some troops of their own throughout the fight. As this skirmish progresses, the participants will build confidence, causing them to fight even more effectively the more it builds. It's not the only game featuring Napoleon, but with its cryptid twist, it's one of the most unique. Number 5. Mary-Kate and Ashley Get a Clue. The Olsen twins were a seemingly unstoppable force in the 90s and early 2000s, featuring in an impressive number of TV shows and films. They even managed to have a massive library of games, designed primarily to entice girls into the gaming world by giving them the most mediocre entertainment possible. Quite a bold marketing strategy. One of these many attempts was Mary-Kate and Ashley Get a Clue for the Game Boy Color. This particular installment in the twins' massive catalogue, released in 2000, is the second, after the new adventures of Mary-Kate and Ashley, to take inspiration from the popular book series of the same name. It follows the pair and their dog, Clue, as they platform their way through 5 different mysteries, collecting puzzle pieces over a total of 50 levels in order to solve each. The 3 all have different abilities, with Mary-Kate able to lift the others to high platforms and climb obstacles, Ashley able to both throw switches and throw Clue at enemies, and Clue is just seemingly there to be a good dog and get thrown into any obstacles the other 2 don't want to deal with. Way to teach young children how to be responsible pet owners, girls. Number 4. Jet Li Rise to Honor. Iconic film star Jet Li started his martial arts journey at an early age, joining the Beijing Wushu team at the age of 8 and building an impressive catalogue of skills before he had to leave the competitive scene at 18 thanks to a knee injury. After this, he pivoted into a career in film, performing in several Chinese titles before making his international debut in Lethal Weapon 4. As he gained popularity, he eventually lent his likeness, voice and martial art moves, with the help of motion capture, to video games in the form of PS2 title Jet Li Rise to Honor. The story centres around Jet Li's character, Kit Yun, an undercover police officer tasked with guarding friend of the family and local crime boss, Chiang. Eventually, he leaves his life of crime, but after numerous protests from his associates and many attempts to take his life, he is eventually assassinated, but not before passing on an envelope to Kit, who has to deliver it to his daughter. The game takes as cinematic an approach as possible, with no loading screens and a DVD-style menu, which players can use to visit any of the previously played scenes. With plenty of references to the star's many films, this is a treat for any martial arts movie fans. Number 3. Go-Go Beckham Adventure on Soccer Island. Former footballer David Beckham was and still is one of the most recognisable stars of the sport, and was amongst the highest paid players before his retirement in 2013. As with Shaq all those entries ago, he unsurprisingly featured in a ton of actual sports games over the years, but couldn't resist branching out into other genres as well, which is how Go Go Beckham Adventure on Soccer Island was born. Despite the title, this GBA game was released exclusively in Europe, and instead of going for the pure professional ball kicking angle, is a platformer, following the titular star as he tries to bring peace to Soccer Island once again, after it's been taken over and corrupted by the evil Dr. Woe. The bright colours and level design are reminiscent of Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, while gameplay borrows heavily from Soccer Kid, seeing Beckham use his ever-present football to defeat enemies and collect items, as well as unlock the end of each level. As players progress, Beckham's skills will improve, allowing him to either kick further or jump higher in order to help him on his journey. Many critics found the game to be too easy and too short, but with how hard sports games can be, I'm certainly not complaining. Number 2, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. The king of pop, Michael Jackson, almost certainly does not need an introduction, being one of the most significant figures of the 20th century and continuing his massive pop culture influence long into the 2000s, as well as having some less than savoury claims to fame as the years progressed. Amongst his many contributions to the public consciousness is the film Moonwalker, released in 1988, which is less a cohesive narrative and more a series of vignettes that all relate to different stages of Jackson's career and the fan response to them. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, available in arcades and for Mega Drive and Master System 2 years later, with the pop star on a mission to rescue some kidnapped children from a villain known as Mr. Big. It's essentially a beat-em-up, and Jackson can use his magical dance attacks to take out the enemies. Surprisingly, the game wasn't all that bad, earning decent scores upon release, so if you're a fan, it could be a thriller of a title to play, even now. Since it's an older one though, you might find it difficult to beat it. Just be sure you don't stop till you get enough. Alright, I'm done now, I promise. Wouldn't wanna be starting something that I can't stop. And number 1, Def Jam Fight for NY. Every game in the Def Jam series features an impressive roster of famous folks, but perhaps the best one is the second entry, Def Jam Fight for NY. Once again starring a huge number of rappers such as Snoop Dogg, Ghostface Killah, Lil' Kim, Xzibit and Ludacris, as well as having the likenesses and voices of several other celebrities, including Carmen Electra and even Kratos himself, Christopher Judge. The title is of the wrestling persuasion, though the gameplay has been expanded somewhat when compared to Def Jam Vendetta. This means that players can choose up to 3 of the 5 available fighting styles, as well as use items in the environment, as well as the crowd itself, to cause damage to opponents. The story follows an unknown player-created character, who is trying to fight his way through the ranks of the New York Underground. As they win bouts, they're able to use their hard-earned cash to either buy new cosmetics, or go to the gym and invest in some skill points or blazing moves instead. Unfortunately, the game started to take a dive in quality with the next entry in the series, Def Jam Icon, so it's unlikely we'll ever see contemporary stars get their own time in the fighting spotlight. More's the pity.